to move the boo bar of streaming onto the YouTube. Let's see. Oh, it's already, well, we got the tab on the right. So hello to everyone who's joining us on YouTube. I can't see that we're actually streaming, but apparently we are. The joys of technology. There we go. I'm just waiting for confirmation here on YouTube to give me the thumbs up that we are live. Yes, I can see your name. You are famous, Dominic. It's true. You have shot to fame. And we've already got someone watching. Hello to everyone watching on YouTube. Welcome to today's, I should say. Well, I've already done two. I was going to say this week's, but welcome to another podcast of the ANS Front Row podcast. There we go. Dominic, we're officially live. I'm going to press record and we'll actually kick this off officially. So hello to everyone watching on YouTube. Always a pleasure to have you. Stick around. We're going to go deep with Dominic. We're going to get insightful and we're going to find out lots of juicy gossip. Or will we? I don't know if we will find out juicy gossip. But here we go.
We'll have to
All right,
see.
here
That
we
does
go.
sound quite good, though, doesn't it? Deep with Dominic.
It does. And hello to everybody. Welcome back to the ANS Front Row podcast. My name's Elliot Kay, and I'm the CEO and visionary behind the Speaker Awards and Speaker Summit. And I'm just going to interrupt very briefly my normal spiel and say the Speaker Awards are open. Woohoo! So if you haven't put yourself forward yet, but you want to put yourself forward, go to thespeakerawards.com and start the process today. There's just one day over a month until the applications close. So we're excited to have your application. We've introduced two new categories, so join us. And today I'm even more excited than I was yesterday because today I get to interview Dominic. And we're going to go deep. We're going to find out about his judging, why he chooses to be a judge, why he's come back for more. And of course, we're going to find out more about Dominic, who's also an author, a speaker. He's a consultant. He's a mental health advocate. There's so much more to Dominic. And I'm looking forward to unpacking that. So hello, in case you didn't remember, my name is Elliot Kay, and I am the visionary behind the Speaker Awards and Speaker Summit. It's our year 5. It's party time. Let's go. Dominic, welcome to the ANS podcast show. Thank you for taking time out to be here. Even more time out because you took time out last Thursday to be on the launch webinar. How are we doing today? Are we good? Are we good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. In fact, I'm so good. I've decided to actually use my standing desk with me standing for the first time in, well, since Christmas.
Wow.
So
You
spring
see,
has obviously arrived.
clearly, and you're taking a stand. Hey,
Absolutely.
see what
Yeah.
I did there? See
Very
what I did
good.
there? Thank you. Thank you. I should be a comedian. I should be a comedian. So this is year 2 or 3 for you as a judge.
This will be the third one, I think. Is
Third
it? Or
year,
second
right?
one?
So, and look, it's not that
I know that
you're
was it. Second year as a judge, but third
second
year
year
I've
as a
taken
judge.
part.
That's right, because you came first as a panelist
Yeah.
and third year taking part, second year as a judge. Look, you're a busy guy, right? You work with one of the biggest bureaus in Europe, in fact, I believe. You've got a lot on your plate, yet you come back as a judge. Tell us what got you to come first place and then return for more.
Well, I mean, first place. I don't know. Shall I admit that it was, Maria with
You can
her,
admit that Maria
it's the
twisted
old,
your arm.
yeah, it's the old arm up the back sort of thing. But no, actually, she didn't have to do it too hard, to be fair, because after having attended as a panelist that first year, when I came along, seeing the people who were there, talking to the people who were there, the enthusiasm, yeah, I wanted to get more involved. So when you asked if I'd like to be a judge, it was a bit of a no-brainer, really. I
Oh,
mean, I suppose I didn't quite appreciate how much work was involved in doing it, but yeah, no, getting that first look at people submitting their entries was it was interesting. It was interesting.
oh, good. Are we allowed to mention the bureau you work for? Is that allowed?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I consult with the London Speaker Bureau, which, according to the New York Times, is the only global speaker bureau, given the fact that we've got more boots on the ground in more different countries than probably most, if not all, of the other bureaus. So, yeah,
Wow.
we have a good spread, which also means we get good exposure to people from all over the world, different speakers, different styles, different cultures, which is, again, it adds to that interesting mix of finding out what is going on out there, which also means we get a lot of different views. So,
Oh, brilliant. So in that respect, then you see speakers day in, day out, right? You get a lot of speakers approach you,
mhm.
why then come back for another year to watch more speakers' videos?
Back
You
in
know,
Moscow. Well, I suppose one key thing to understand is how I've always defined the difference between a speaker agency and a speaker bureau.
I think that's good. Let's go there. Let's do it.
Yeah. So a speaker agency tends to take on a limited, and when I say limited, it might be quite large, but they take on X number of speakers, and then they actively go out and market those speakers to end clients and to other bureau and things like that. Whereas a bureau kind of
Hmm.
sits on the opposite approach. So whereas an agent is sort of pushing the speakers out there,
Hmm.
a bureau works from the pull side. So a bureau, from my perception at least, is more focused on the clients. So we try and build a good client portfolio. We build good relationships with the clients so that we keep coming back, or they keep coming back rather, year on year for their events each year. And that puts us with a little bit of a quandary because if it's a host,
Yeah.
then sometimes a client likes to use that same host year on year for the continuity and they get a good working relationship and all that sort of stuff. But when it comes to the keynote content, when it comes to the actual information, they always tend to prefer to have different people each year because they don't want to repeat with the same person every year.
Yeah.
So from that respect, we've got to be constantly finding good new talent that we can put in there across a whole broad range of subjects. Because as a bureau working with a client and looking at the fact that probably about half of the clients I work with are events companies, so they
Hmm.
organize for a whole range of clients as well. We're always covering a broad spectrum of topics, everything from geopolitics and economics all the way through to well-being and mental health, diversity, all of those sorts of things, sustainability, all of these things. So having access to people who are coming in, who are putting themselves forward and can demonstrate that they have that ability to connect with an audience, it's almost a bit of a no-brainer. I mean, London Speaker Bureau is now involved with Thinkers 50 as well.
Yes, I saw that because I was
Um,
at the event this year, last
so
year.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's finding that pool of talent, finding the new ideas, the fresh people, and what's coming up really. So yeah, and
Brilliant.
Speaker
And
Awards offers a perfect place to do that, and the Speaker Summit is a great place for networking. So
it's a win-win, right? Um,
absolutely.
and brilliant. And also because I'm well aware that obviously time is precious. So for you to come back and do it second year and you to see the value, that means a lot to me as the vision behind it, right? So to hear it from your words is reassuring in a way for me that you're finding the value beyond just giving your time, that you have access and you're able to then build relationship with those speakers as well. You can go, look, I see you at the speaker awards, I'd like to discuss things. And I think that's a really nice added value to this. We never promise that, we never lead with that, but it's nice that it happens organically as well, right?
Yeah.
That then when you see a speaker, like, look, I saw at the speaker awards, I'd love to discuss you coming on the books as well. um, so tell us a little bit what you've seen that's done really well when you've seen entries come into the speaker awards. What are the ones that you're like, they have something?
um it's easier to say those who don't.
We can start there. Let's go there. Let's
Should we
go there
start there?
first. Let's
Let's
start
start and
there.
then end on the positive. So, yeah, I mean, did see a number of entries last year where it was very evident they hadn't put in the effort to their entry.
Okay.
And when that is evident, then you've got to ask the question, well, how much do they actually care about it?
Right.
And if they don't care about putting their effort into their entry, how much effort and care are they going to give to your client if you book them for an event?
Right.
So I would say if you're not going to put in the time, if you're not going to put in the effort, if you're not going to put in the care to your entry on the speaker awards, you would be better off not entering at all.
Right.
However, if you can demonstrate that you read the questions and answer the questions rather than something else that you want to say,
Yeah.
if you do want to upload a relevant video rather than just your show reel,
Hmm.
because in a lot of the categories, it's not actually your show reel that needs to be uploaded. If you're entering the show
Correct.
reel category, yes, put your show reel there.
Go crazy, right?
But
Yeah.
if you're doing the best storyteller or speaker booker's choice, or sorry, booker's choice, speaker booker's choice, either
It works.
booker's choice or any of the others, read what is required and pay attention. Because, as I say, if you're not putting the effort into something that directly promotes you, then how much attention are you really going to put into listening to a client, into understanding their brief, into connecting with their audience, into leaving them feeling something different when they leave your talk? So, yeah, that's absolutely something that we look out for. And there are some very good ones. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some which immediately you can kind of pass by because they haven't paid attention at all.
Right.
But when it came down to the final voting on some of the categories last year, it was so close. I mean, it wasn't a coin flip, but it almost felt like it got to the point of, well, it could be either of these two people.
Right.
How do we decide? And
Well, that's where the scoring's important. That's where
yeah,
Lavalda looks at, and she looks at all the like. At some point, we have to go right beyond this point. Everyone's cut in a sense
yeah,
because, and it can be half a point or a point because otherwise we're going to end up with categories with like 25, and also that the margins are so tiny that sometimes it's like 1.5 points between seventh and top, right? They get because like you mentioned this, the standard's getting higher and higher and the entries are getting higher, and I think people are taking it more seriously. So therefore, it can
yeah.
be. I can see that literally because we can see that in the marking. You're saying, well, it could be this one, it could be that one. That's why we do have the scoring in there. That really helps us make that decision where you want.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, obviously, year on year, the number of entries is increasing as well.
Yes, we're gonna
It's
need more
phenomenal,
judges.
and the variety, the sort of the I think the international people are finding more out about it more now, and more of those are coming in as well.
Hmm.
So, you know, as far Jazz Amparfar, I mean, she is a phenomenal person in her own right, and
Correct. Yeah.
absolutely, top-notch speaker. She is blows it out of the park. Um, but well, apart from the fact that you've placed a limit that you can only enter three categories now,
Yeah. Well,
you
it
know,
was two, right?
it
We
was it was
limited it.
two last year.
It was
Yeah,
two, but we opened up for year five to three.
yeah,
And actually, it's indirectly because of jazz we put the limit
yes, yeah. I mean, she
originally.
just clean sweeped it one year because I mean, as I say, she is phenomenal, and
Yes,
but there are also other phenomenal people out there, and it's
exactly.
great. It's actually great that you have put the limit in so that more people can get the exposure. Um,
Exactly. And we had to decide like what are we? And the whole idea is to give people the platform, to give people and if someone's always being Manchester City and just sweeping the board, then people just won't enter. They'll be like, well, why bother if I'm going to continuously lose out? So that's why we entered. We did change the application process. Only this year we three, and we changed it to two. If you won a category, you can't re-enter that category. So, but if you're highly commended, you can. That's why we changed that. And once you're in the Hall of Fame, you can't be. I think 3 years you can't even apply. So we did that to open, like you say, to give those people the opportunity to apply. So yeah, she is phenomenal, and that's why she's in the Hall of Fame.
yeah.
She's one of two women. Actually, when I interviewed her, she pointed. She goes, "Am I the only woman?" Well, Ricky's in there, so
Mhm.
no, she's not. But at the time, I was like, "Oh yeah, I think you are the only woman." So we need more women in the Hall of Fame, but don't tell anyone, Dom.
Yeah, well, I mean, talking about women,
Yes,
um, very, very important to have more women putting themselves forward,
100%.
because, I mean, it's not. I am finding more and more there is less of a diversity requirement in the speakers that I'm putting forward, or at least the companies that I'm putting them forward to are not asking as much necessarily for
Okay.
diversity across the board, whether it's race, gender, whatever it may be. Um, However, I still feel personally that it is important that I'm able to put forward a mixed portfolio of speakers into any proposal so that there is that variety to choose from, and that, I mean, it has been psychologically proven that unfortunately men are very willing to put themselves forward even when they're not ready. And women, on the other hand, will hold themselves back even when they are more than ready to do something. So, I would say even if you're not on the fence, but thinking, oh, I'll do it next year or whatever, no, come on, step
Let's do
up,
it.
put yourself forward, give it a go. And if nothing else, you will learn from the experience. So, but having said that, I'm fairly sure that in terms of sort of gender balance and on the awards, it is leaning more towards the sort of female presenting side of
Yeah,
things.
yeah, we're very hot on inclusivity and diversity. We're trying. We can always do better, I think. But yeah, we do a lot of women win the awards, and a diverse range of women win the awards, and that's because they earned it, not because we're like,
Mhm.
oh, we need that person to win. It's because those are the people. But we do find, and that's what something that Jazz said, and she's always said that when she showed up in our room, she felt like she found her people. She found her tribe. She wasn't the only black woman in the room. I mean, she refers to her as brown,
Mhm.
she found there was women, there was diverse women, there was there's all transgenders, there was
Yeah,
everything. And I think that's quite important to us. And I think we're very strong when we're deciding lineups, except for the summit, that we do look for a diverse range. The VIP day is all women, and
yeah,
I'm a big champion. I want more women on stage. I want to see, I feel they have a lot, obviously they have a lot to offer. And I think we still need to tilt. There's still a lot of, white men on stage, middle-aged white men, and we need to improve that. And if I can do a tiny bit towards that, I will. So I think it's so important, as you mentioned.
absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, on the flip side of that, quite an interesting one is I know of at least two female speakers who will not take part in a panel if it is only women, because they also
Interesting.
recognize
Of men being on
the
stage.
importance of having that diversity, of having the balance across the sort of the panel and those sorts of things. So
Yeah, no, it's a balance,
it
right?
flows both ways. Yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah,
don't want to go too extreme either side. No men on stage. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying a balance of men on stage.
yeah. Middle-aged white males, you're out.
Yes,
But
I know. They get a
no, I
bad
mean,
rap, don't they?
they can do, but at the end of the day, when it comes to putting forward a proposal to a client, I will put in the people who I feel are best for the brief.
Hmm.
And sometimes it is all balanced one way, sometimes it is more mixed than others. So I just need to know who those people are out there. And that's, to be honest, that is where things can get a little bit complicated, especially working with various bureaus, and
Yeah,
especially somebody like the London Speaker Bureau, who is so globally spread,
yeah,
is even when we hear about great new talent, and we put them into the database so that we can access them when we do searches and things, it can still take a very long time for knowledge of them to filter out to all of the consultants within the organization.
yeah,
So, I mean, you know, we have consultants, as I say, in UK, a lot of different European countries, India, Malaysia, China, all over the place. So it's once someone's taken on, how do we find out about them? And I don't know, is it worth explaining the process that,
yeah. I
well,
think it'd be
I for one
worthwhile.
go through when I get a new brief? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. I think it'd be insightful for a lot of people because they
Okay.
probably have never heard what it looks like on the other side. And of course, I remember when we talk and you're like, look, I can put you on the system, but that doesn't necessarily mean
Oh, yeah.
anything. And I think it's worth understanding, how it works for a bureau, and it'd be a good education piece. What I do, before you launch into that, I
Mm.
just want to point out what's really come across here is detail does matter. How you show up to the
Oh,
awards
yeah.
does matter, and I think people don't understand how it reflects on them. So you highlighting that has been absolutely brilliant. You know, if you're going to be this way for an awards, what are you going to be like for 5 to 10K client? It's like you're
Mm.
just off the list immediately. So please, people watching this, whether on replay, live on YouTube, or you're listening to this, please pay attention. Put some effort into your entry. Don't, yeah, do explain from your point what happens when you do, like, because I think a lot of people go, well, it's the Golden Gate. I'm on a bureau now. They're going to come flooding in. Yeah, all these bookings. No, not quite.
No, 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 no.
No, no, no.
I mean, to give you an idea, in a sort of any 12-month rolling period, we probably work with 10% of the speakers who are listed on our internal database.
Wow.
And most of those are just a single time. So yeah, getting
One
listed with a
off.
bureau is doesn't guarantee anything. It if well, from Maria's book, the Bookability Formula, I mean, it is literally 1% of those who we have listed who get booked continuously multiple times during a year.
Wow.
Um,
I bet that's shocking for, I know that's that very well, but I bet that's shocking
yeah.
for some of the speakers out
So how does the process work? Okay. Well, we get the brief in from the client.
there.
Hopefully they give us enough detail to be able to put something reasonable together to start with. So, you know, dates, audiences, location, budgets, all those sorts of things, all those details we need before we can start putting things forward. Surprisingly, clients do come with to us when they don't know
What they want.
anything. I have had a client come to me before and they've gone, we need to, I've been asked to organize a speaker for an event. Can you give me some ideas? And I'm like, yeah, okay. Can you give me any idea of where it's going to be, how much you've got, and all this? And they're like, well, no, it's the first time we've done this, so we've got no idea what we're doing. And it's like,
Oh no.
okay. But then you can start talking to them, obviously, and you say, okay, well, is 5,000 reasonable, 10,000, 100,000? And that's when they fall off the chair, and you kind of get the point that actually you do have an idea of what it is that you want. So hopefully we get a brief that's reasonably well formed. And from that, the first place we'll go to is our heads,
Yeah.
because
Who jumps
that
into mind?
that's the easiest way to go is like, who do I know who could fit in this brief? So that's where it's handy to have a bit of contact with speakers to
Hmm.
keep updated with what they're doing, but
Yep.
not too much because then they're annoying and then we won't use them. So it
It's a balance.
again, there's a bit of a balance there. So I would say if you're going to update a bureau, I would not do it more than once every 6 months,
Okay.
unless there is something earth-shattering which really does need to get out there urgently about what you're doing. You know, if
Or
you've
they're
got a
on
huge
trend.
change in direction or
Yeah.
something, and you're not going to be talking about what you were talking about anymore, you need to let the bureau know because otherwise they're going to book you for stuff that's not relevant anymore.
Right.
But otherwise, I would say once every 6 months is probably the sort of roughly the sweet spot for just keeping in mind, but not annoying.
Hmm.
So, so yeah, so we're going through the head and we're going, who do we know? We put in a bunch of people. Once we've done that, we will then go and search our internal database.
Okay.
So we've got keyword searches and filters and all these sorts of things that we can apply to the
A bit
database.
like an internal Google.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is great, apart from for those new people.
Because they will be at the bottom of the pile.
Absolutely, because certainly on our database, when we do a search, it lists the person with the latest event at the top.
Okay.
So if you've got an event that's not happening for another 6 months, you'll stay at the top of that list until somebody who has an event that's in 7 months comes along.
Right.
But it also means that if you haven't had any events with the Bureau, you will appear below those who have had events going as far back as 2010, 2013. So
Wow.
so
That's a long
you're
time.
you're way off the bottom of the list. So it is how to get up there. And the next point, the next step, I suppose, is the easiest place to get heard about. But however, there is a way to shortcut that getting up the list, of
Oh,
course,
here comes a hack, people. Take note.
which is, if you're willing, if you have a brief that comes in that you'd like to share, if you pass it over to the bureau, then obviously they can negotiate on it and you will then appear nicely up that list. So,
Oh,
and you
there
can
you go.
consider it marketing spend or whatever, or a bit of an investment to just increase your exposure when doing a search from just being the one person who knows about you to suddenly being 50, 60, 70 consultants who are doing the search about their global events. So
Hmm.
there's a little hack there.
There you
Uh,
go.
so yeah, and then the only other place really to get known about it is essentially word of mouth. So what happens is if we've given a brief to our clients and they've come back and they're like, nah, it's not quite right. Who else can you think of? And we're kind of out of things in our head. We've searched the list and we're not really sure who would fit. Then we'll post on our internal sort of blog,
Looking
intranet blog
for.
and say, yeah, I've got this brief. Who would you think of putting forward. And that's where a lot of the new names sort of get put forward. That's where people like Alex Atherton,
Yeah.
I've mentioned him on there, and he's been booked by other cl- uh, clients, other consultants
Yeah.
have booked him for their clients because it's been shared on that sort of forum.
So I
So yeah,
think,
but that is obviously quite slow.
yeah,
And then just to say that even if you don't hear from a bureau, that doesn't mean they're not putting you forward. All it
right,
means is that you haven't made the shortlist for the client. So there's plenty of speakers. Each time I do a brief, I will put forward probably about 5 or 6 speakers.
right.
Out of that, they might only choose 1, 2, or 3 who they want to pencil a date with or have a talk with and all that sort of stuff. And until I actually hear that from the client, I don't
Yeah.
reach out to the speaker, because otherwise we'd be reaching out to thousands of speakers every sort of month and then cancelling them again. And
Laying them
that
down.
just gets frustrating for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. I remember years ago, I used to work in a modeling agency, not as a model, clearly. And I was in charge of both the models and the dance division. And I always, dancers, I think they're very similar to speakers or actors. And whenever they would always email in, and then they'd be like, sure, yeah, I've put you forward for this. And then I'd have to say, well, you didn't get it. And that's just a horrible place to be. So in a way, it makes sense just not to say anything until you have something,
Mhm.
because you're holding people's dreams, ambitions, technically in your hands. It's up to them. But I know that feeling well of, so I understand why you don't let people know, oh, I've put you forward for a brief. You think you're doing a nice thing, but then you have to tell them when they don't get it. And that's not nice. So I hear you on that 100%.
Yeah, and I mean, typically clients will not tell us why they do or don't choose somebody.
They
Um,
just won't.
they it just won't. And I mean, there's plenty of situations where you get ghosted as well. So you put forward a list of people, you've been chatting, and then suddenly the client just goes
Nothing.
quiet
Yep.
and you get nothing because they've moved on. They're doing something else. And
I had that
alas,
recently, and that's why I thought, oh, I should really brought that to Dom. There we go. I'm reminded to myself to do it. So next time I'm bringing you the brief, because I did. I had something exactly that. We were close. We booked in the date to have the final call to then contract. Ghosted.
yeah,
Nothing.
it does
Yes.
happen. It does
Yeah.
happen.
Even
And I
to
mean,
bureaus, people. Even to bureaus.
even to bureaus, yes. In fact, probably more so to bureaus.
Yeah.
Because in some ways, because bureaus are great because they've got the third party argument when it comes to negotiations. So it may well be that bureaus can negotiate you higher fees and that sort of thing because they're sort of one step removed. Whereas if the client is dealing directly with a speaker, there is a little bit more leverage that the client can potentially have to get the speaker on board, unless the speaker is very good at maintaining their boundaries and going, no, this is my fee.
Yeah.
Which some are,
Summer.
most aren't, especially those who are in that sort of mid-tier level. They're more flexible. I wouldn't say they're more flexible than they need to be,
Hmm.
but they are often more flexible more quickly than they need to be,
Right.
if that makes
They
sense.
don't hold their nerve for long enough.
Yes, yeah.
Mid tier
And
for you would be 3 to 7.
um yeah, that's probably accurate. I'd say, yeah, averaging around 5K.
Okay,
So,
average of 5K. That's where I
so
sit. Damn it. So there we go. No, this is really insightful and thank you for this. So what's coming through is pay attention to detail as an entry,
mhm.
right? But also understand that how important it is to say front of mind and do it nicely versus annoyingly. So those are a couple of, and if you want the bureau's attention, and I know a lot of speakers resent that, bring them a brief, right? They're like, I've done all the hard work. Why should I hand it over to bureau? And I can just say that I actually now being reminded by Dom that I wish I'd handed that brief over from it started last year because it would have taken a lot away, right? Which, like you say, negotiate down, not negotiate down, preferably, but you could have taken all the kind of legwork away, the chasing, the this, and I think that's where, you know what, if I, in hindsight, if even if you took 20%, walking away with 3 grand is a lot more than nothing.
Yeah,
So, and I think speakers need to kind of understand that you're a free service until it's time to get paid, right? You're not free at
yeah,
all. But that's what you're getting paid for, right? For the contract, for the negotiation, for the follow up, for the closing of the deal.
yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of speakers they resent it. I've done all the work, I've done all the marketing, but actually you can take a lot of the headache away, and that's where that's
Well, yes, and we have quite a number of speakers who we work with who will pass over pretty much all of their incoming briefs because they don't want the hassle of having to
right.
manage, the sort of the CRM side of stuff, if you like, with having to go back, with having to remember to contact the person, with having to chase up on everything.
Mm,
Um, and Another good thing with bureaus is because we have, especially people like the LSB, because we work with such a variety of organizations, and
mm,
especially the bigger ones where they have an onboarding process for procurement and all that sort of stuff, which can be a right pain in the
okay.
backside, because we might already have been onboarded by them for another speaker, it just makes it so much easier. And
Yeah,
that's the other thing that we do is we always ensure that the fees have been collected before the event takes place. So
right.
yes, we pay the speakers after the event because that's,
They need
part
to
of the
show
contract.
up.
But it's essentially, we have a sort of an escrow like type account where, the clients pay the money into that and we just hold it until after the event has taken place and then the speakers can get paid.
Hmm.
Hopefully with some efficiency after the event, rather than having to wait 60, 90, 120 days, whatever the sort of organization's standard policy is.
Yeah, they get paid. I remember Maria telling a story, and I think this is probably why, again, bureaus are handy, that she'd booked it's either her or someone she booked a speaker, a very high fee, I think like 100 grand. He had a heart attack.
Mm.
And I think if she hadn't, or if he wasn't able to do it, whoever booked them would have to like sell their house to refund that. In a way, the bureaus bring that security blanket,
Yeah.
because you've got that escrow account. Should anything happen, you can refund and then get it from the speaker. But it hasn't gone anywhere either, right? So it's sat there and
Mhm.
no one's. And I think I remember telling that story, thinking how harrowing that would have been that you have to sell your house to refund the company because the speaker had a heart attack. Eventually, he did do it, and no one had to do that. But she tells that story, so it's quite interesting. So some really advantages here. So before we move on from this, you've been very insightful into how bureaus work, and again, I highly suggest any speaker listen to this, whether they're booked a lot or not, because there's some insights. What would you say to people thinking to enter the speaker awards this year? What would grab? What would you love to see? What would make your life easier as a judge? You talked about attention to detail, but tell us more about that.
Yeah. There is answering the question, but it is the thing which I find really key in speakers that I'm looking at is I want to be able to connect with them on an emotional level.
Okay.
I want to be able to feel their experience. I want them to be able to take me on a journey during their keynote, to be able to tell me, how things started, why things are applicable, how it affects me, how I can get some improvement in my life from what they are saying. Because at the end of the day, as much as you might like your story, you are not on that stage to tell your story.
Right.
You are on that stage to improve the lives of the people in the audience. And some
Yep.
people forget that. Some
Yep.
people just get up there and they're like, "Oh, here's my story."
Look at me.
And it's
Yeah.
and it's great. Yeah, you've done this thing, but countless people have rowed the ocean, countless people have climbed mountains, countless people have thrown themselves off buildings. You know, that doesn't make you special. What will make you special is your ability to make your audience feel things and then take action afterwards.
It's interesting because Jeremy for the founder of JLA, when we gave
Mm.
him lifetime, he did talk like, were you there at the summit
I
last
was,
year?
yeah.
And he kind of said the same thing, like, I don't care that you've climbed a mountain with one hand. I want
Hmm.
to know something beyond that. The way he delivered it was a bit clunky, but in essence, what you're saying there, there's got to be more to the story than what you've achieved, right?
Yeah.
The achievement's great, but we need something else. We need a humanistic connection. We need a why am I listening to you
Yeah.
feel, and that's what you'd be looking for your categories, which we'll
Yeah.
reveal shortly. Not to you, not
Absolutely.
here, but to you as the judges. But yes, that's what you're looking for, right? Something beyond I've won a medal, something beyond I, survived
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When I see the video, because I think all the categories have a video with them,
yeah,
I want to be able to feel like, yeah, this person can has something for me. This person can deliver something for me. Because at the end of the day, the speakers need to be able to give, as I say, they need to be able to give of themselves in such a way that the people who are in the audience can walk away with something for themselves. So
right.
something that is relevant to them, something that affects their lives, something that will change something for them.
And they've got 5 minutes to make that impression. So it's a real challenge, right?
It
Can
is.
I and feel free to say you don't want to answer. How much of a video will you how much time will you give them that opportunity to keep your attention, roughly?
Well, I think there is the old statistic, isn't it? You've got to catch people in the first 10 seconds, sort of
Right.
thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's true. I mean, in fairness, when judging the awards, we'll watch and read everything out of a
Wow.
courtesy to the people who have entered.
It's amazing.
Now, how much attention I give to it and how actually tuned into it I am, that
Right.
is determined by how good they are at kind of grabbing you in that first 10 seconds. Which is why, I mean, I'm just going to drop in here in a show reel, do not spend the first 30 seconds introducing yourself.
Right. Yeah, because you've wasted
You
30 valuable seconds.
Well, and it's not just that, you have wasted that connection time.
Right.
Until I know how you can benefit me and how I can benefit from what you have to say, I'm not interested. So it doesn't matter who you are, how many awards you've won, how much experience you've got in something, until I know you are actually relevant to what I am trying to achieve, to what I am trying to deliver to my audience, everything else is irrelevant. And once you've caught me in, once you've given me a question as to, oh, do you have this problem that you're trying to solve? And it is a
Yeah.
problem that I'm trying to solve. So now I'm interested.
Right.
That's something that I'm going to pay attention to. And once you've hooked me in on that, then you can tell me more about you. Then you can tell me why you are the person who is qualified to help me with this problem. But yeah, most show reels waste that first 30 seconds on yeah, I'm brilliant. Look, I've
Hi.
done this, I've
Yeah.
done that, I've done the other. And
Yeah. Especially when you see hundreds, if not thousands, right?
absolutely.
It just blends in. It's just noise. Ricky was saying yesterday when I interviewed them that some people put sales pitches in the middle of
Mm.
their in their entries. Have you seen that in your categories?
Yeah, yeah, they usually don't make it to the shortlist.
Well, there you go. You're hearing it all firsthand, people. No pitching, grab connection, make it a clean and clear entry. So you've given it attention and make sure it matters to the category. The other thing, of course, you probably see is
Yeah.
people put videos, like you say, the show reel when it's storytelling. Well, that's not telling a
Mhm.
story, that's your show
Mm.
reel. So, yeah, so these are really, really insightful things. So, thank you for that. Just to remind everybody, you're listening to the ANS Front Row podcast with me, Elliot, and Dominic from who's a consultant to a bureau from London Speaker Bureau, but he does more than that. We're going to start unpacking that in a minute. If you like what you hear, do go for it. Dominic said, now don't wait till you're ready. Let's go. Let's get the entries in. Go to thespeakerawards.com and get your entry in. Get started. We've got over 40 entries started so far to date when you're listening to this. Obviously, we reach more than that when it comes near the time. There's 31 days from the day this is recorded. So get your entry in today. Don't delay. Hey, you like what I did there? I rhyme. So thank you so much for all your insight into both bureaus and the awards and what you're looking for. So your journey, yes, you want to
Can I
add?
just
Go.
add,
Yes, yes, please.
the sooner you enter, the more chance you actually have of winning, because every single year there are more entries, the
Correct.
quality of entries is higher.
Correct.
So yeah, just go for it. And at the end of the day, you can't do version 2 you until you've done version 1 you. So
Yeah,
put it out there,
exactly.
see what happens.
But what we say is back yourself and enter. The other reason I say get in early is because if you need to tweak anything, you need to change anything, you've given yourself that runway to make the tweaks. If you leave it to the last minute and you've done something, oh, you can't, it closes 30th of April. That's it. Dorm slut, iron bars, chain lock, padlock. You can't get in, period. Doesn't matter what you offer us, you can't because we have to respect the process. So,
Mhm.
Dominic, tell us a little bit. Yes, you're a consultant to London Speaker Bureau, right?
Mhm.
But there's so much more. You're an author, you're a speaker yourself, you're the occasional coder, as you've put it. I believe you built a whole platform and that was sold. Tell us a little bit more about the person behind the judge. Tell us your journey into this space.
Oh, gosh, journey into the space. Well, I suppose we could go back to school. I mean, I loved being in the school
I
plays
was
and that sort
born
of
in
thing. So
1970.
yeah, born in 19, yeah. Uh, yes. So I have always been involved with events in some way or another, really. So as I say, school plays. But then when I finished at uni, I started working with this little company called Macromedia,
Okay.
which unfortunately no longer exists because it was bought out by Adobe.
Oh, wow.
But for those of you who grew up through the early years of the internet, I'm sure you remember Dreamweaver, Fireworks, Flash,
Oh,
all those
yes.
sorts of things. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
those were Macromedia products. Um, and actually, here's why you just apply for stuff, because I applied for a job with Macromedia as their European systems manager, so managing their network and IT infrastructure for all of their European offices. And I
Wow.
had absolutely no formal qualifications to do that whatsoever. I literally I had spent years just playing with computers, learning about networking through helping my parents set up the network for their business and that sort of stuff, and doing home networks and those sorts of things. Um, and I applied for the job.
Hmm.
And the reason I got the job is because my enthusiasm came across.
Ah,
Again, when coming in for the awards, show your enthusiasm, show why you're keen for it. Why are you a speaker?
yeah.
That has to come across. Um, so yeah, so showed the passion for it, and basically the interview went okay. The guy who was interviewing me did ask a bit about how to do some coding process, and I came up with an idea, which yes, achieved what the goal was.
Yeah.
But then he also said to me, "Oh, yeah, that works, but it could have been done a different way, and this, that, and the other." And me being me, I actually went home, wrote up the code to do it a different way, and then
Oh,
sent it
wow.
to him. So that may be what got me the job. So
The
yes,
enthusiasm, right?
the enthusiasm and not sort of giving up on it, I suppose. But then, so that was dealing with all the networks, which is not really event focused. But because I got all the networks working fine, and this was on the days of ISDN dial on demand networks from all
Wow.
the European offices back into the head office in the UK. Um, yeah, several 6 a.m. flights out to Paris because their network wasn't working properly.
Oh, no. Nightmare.
Um, but but once that was up and running, we were then taking on these new products because I joined before they bought out Future Wave Splash and the company that had owned what was prior to Dreamweaver and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
But because I'd had this sort of self-taught coding background, I got involved with Dreamweaver second line product support.
Okay.
And as part of that, what I had to do was I had to write training programs and I had to deliver training and workshops both to our frontline support, which was to a wonderful support company up in Scotland called Sykes. And they did all our Macromedia's frontline support in Europe. But I
Oh,
had to go and train them. And then we also ran user groups every year. We'd have a big user group. And yeah, I'd get involved with presenting to the audience on that. And then we did trade shows and things to show off the products as
your
well. So
products. Yeah.
I have been to Cannes and
Oh,
and been
wow.
on a little stage in the sort of demonstration area. So that's a claim to fame there. So yeah, so I did that for a while. Then I went and worked with my parents for a number of years.
Yep.
And again, there I did a whole bunch of coding. I also wrote the training manuals for the software. I delivered the coaching for the software. The product is still available today. It's something called ClickerPad, which is a credit card size keypad where you probably know Slido and all those sorts of
Oh,
things
yeah.
where
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
vote
Oh, yeah. I
during the
remember you telling
conference.
me
Yeah.
about this. Yeah.
Yeah, well, this comes before Slido. So it's a credit card keypad that you put your questions into PowerPoint, you ask a question, they vote on the keypad, results come up.
Yes, I remember. I think I
Um,
looked into it potentially for the summit, but we couldn't quite stretch the
uh,
budget.
uh,
I think I looked into it. Yes, I do
there we
remember
go.
that. Yes.
Yeah. So, but the great thing with these things is because it's a hardware keypad and not like Slido, people aren't going to their phones. They're not going out of
Yeah,
the room. Like, oh
they're
look,
doing something else.
oh, I see. I've got a notification whilst I'm doing my voting. So yeah,
Yeah.
it keeps them in the room, which is great. Um, but again, with that, there were some people, some clients that we had who didn't feel up to running the voting sessions themselves. So, I'd
You
end
had to
up on
bring in
stage
support.
actually sort of comparing and hosting the voting sessions, often on topics that I knew nothing about, which was always quite
Which is very
interesting.
interesting, right? Yes,
So
been there.
yeah, so where are we going with this? What was the original
Just a little
question?
bit, who's the person behind? So
Yeah.
you
So
work
so
with your
yeah,
parents, and then you
yeah.
kind
So
of,
I was with them for what, 12 years
yep.
until one morning my mum fired me with an email.
No
Um,
way, your mom fired you with an email.
she did, bless her.
Sorry, son, you're fired. Or was it
Yeah,
formal?
kind
Dear
of.
Dominic, you're fired.
Uh, no, yeah, it was kind of did on it. Yeah, don't worry about coming in for the rest of the month and please post your keys back. Um, so
Wow.
yeah, but there was obviously a lot more to it than that.
Yeah,
But
I'm sure.
yeah, things had we had different management styles, shall we say? So
Fair enough.
so yeah,
You
it
know,
happens, it happens, it happens. But and it was good because it brought me into this world. So yeah,
and then that's how you found yourself into. Did Maria give you a big Maria Franzoni? For those you don't know, is our ambassador. Did she kind of give you a leg up, so to speak?
kind of, yes. Well, yes, she did. Via my ex-wife. So my
Okay.
ex-wife had worked at CSA. She then went to work at LSB, and then our son was born.
Hmm.
And she took some time out from that, and she wasn't sure about going back to working with speakers again, but Maria kind of persuaded her. Maria can be very persuasive. I don't know if you've
No,
noticed that.
really? Are you saying Maria
Yeah,
Franzoni can be very persuasive?
Maria
I've never
Franzoni is
seen
very
that.
persuasive. I don't
You
know,
know what's
maybe.
interesting, Dom? Like,
Yeah.
she must be, because I've never seen it, but I do know every time we've asked her to introduce or get someone involved, they've got involved. Like, she's a fantastic ambassador. Like, and I've never been privy to her persuasion, but it clearly
Mhm.
works. Because like, oh, can you get this? But yes, and they're involved. It's quite interesting, really.
Well, I think she has those key three things, and that is she's known, she's
Yep.
liked, and she's trusted.
Yeah.
So beyond that, she doesn't, I don't think she actually has to do that much more apart
I
from
don't
just
think
sort
she
of
does. And she's got the
smile and say,
credibility.
"Will you do this for me?" And people just tend to go, "Yes," because
I know, it's quite amazing. We almost got a really big keynote speaker to close the summit, but they couldn't do it. The date. But after having lunch with her, she's like, "Do you want me to ask him?" I'm like, "Yeah, go for it."
yeah,
Unfortunately, not. So there we go. So that's how you
there you
find
go.
yourself into LSB. Now, since LSB, London Speaker Bureau, you are more like you speak yourself, right? You're also an author.
Hmm.
So tell us a little bit about your authorship.
Yeah, this is a new project that I'm working on at the moment, and the first book came out at the beginning of March. The second
Hmm.
one's going to come out at the beginning of May.
Wow,
Then the next one July, and then the next one September,
you're a
and then
machine.
next one December.
I
It's
have
I'm
like
I'm
years
putting it out
between
there and
mine.
committing to it. So
Mad.
yes.
I take
And
like 3 years between my books. You take 2 months. Crazy.
well,
You like to suffer.
ADHD and kind of that sort of stuff.
Ah,
When I
fair
get
enough.
onto something, I get onto something. Um, Unfortunately, it also means that when I'm not focused on something, loads of other things can happen to distract me. But
Fair enough.
so yeah, but I mean the idea of the books came about actually from a newsletter that I'd seen from one of the speakers that I work with,
Okay.
who mentioned something on YouTube that was similar to, and it got me thinking about, well, A, how can I create a bit of a passive income? Because that'd be lovely.
Yep.
Because the speaker business, you might have noticed this. The speaker business is quite seasonal.
Really.
It is.
Ah,
I'll just let you into this, okay? Just between you and me, we'll just keep it quiet. But
okay.
it's not consistent throughout the year.
Shock.
Absolutely. So
Oh man.
anyway, so I thought, what can I do? And my again, I've got to thank my ex for this. She's been doing book narration for a number of years and does very well and gets awesome feedback from the authors that she works with and also from the people who listen to her books. Um, can I put the name forward?
Yeah,
So
please,
her
please.
narration name is Wendy Wolfson,
Yeah, go
and
for it.
yeah, she mostly narrates fictional books. She's done a whole bunch of historical fiction. I know she's currently working on a new book, which is absolutely brilliant. I mean, she did English at university, and this book she's currently working on is phenomenal. So if you check out Wendy Wolfson on Amazon, watch her, and I think it's probably going to come out in the next 2 or 3 months. I can't remember what
Okay.
it's called, but it is a really good book. Um, but back to my books, I wanted to create that passive income.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we shall see. It'll build over time. But I also wanted to do something that was useful. So the idea that I'd seen was to help people get into a better quality of sleep. Because sleep comes in two forms. There is duration of sleep and there is
Yep.
quality of sleep.
Yep.
And these are not the same thing.
Nope.
You can
I
have a
can attest
good
to that.
8, 10, 12 hours of sleep and still wake up
Knackered.
absolutely not feeling it. So it's getting into that quality of sleep, which is important. So with the well-being work I've done over the last 5 years, I've sort of compiled these books around the idea of getting you into a deeper, better quality sleep quicker,
Hmm.
helping you to get your nervous system back into regulation because the world we live in nowadays, it's so full of things demanding your attention and coming at you from left, right, and center.
Continuous.
And that is continuously putting you into that fight and flight mode.
Yep.
Now, we're not that long out of caves. So
Right.
our nervous system is still pretty much, early Homo sapien living in a cave. And yeah, we'd come out of the cave, and it's those people who had a nervous system that could get distracted by things that would notice that lion in the bushes who actually managed to survive. However, once you'd run away from that lion, you'd either survived or you died. And if you'd survived, you would then have quite a good period of down regulation.
Right.
You would have that period to recover. You would have that period where your body can get back into itself. It can do its cleaning out. It can fix itself up after having dealt with that stress.
Yep.
But the world we live in nowadays, everything is just coming at you all the time,
Right.
whether it's emails, pings, phone calls, whatever it is. And our body does not know the difference between the lion in the bushes and the latest Facebook notification that pops up at you.
Yeah. That,
So that's how it reacts. So the idea is return your nervous system to a more balanced place, which also helps with better quality sleep
yeah,
because
of course, because
you're not so
your
busy.
brain's calmness.
So yeah. And then the final sort of pillar to this thing is to help take us away from the dopamine seeking that we've kind of fallen into over the last decade or so, whereby we want affirmations from this, that, and the other, and to return us to that place where we can actually do the day by day processes, those small little actions that need repeating in order to build up to something larger.
Yeah.
So to help with that focus. So yeah, there is the book. The book does achieve what it's supposed to if you read it. However, the audiobook is so much more effective because you can stick it on when you're ready to go to sleep or to rest, listen to it, just drop off with it playing, just leave it play all the way
Oh,
through, and it works
nice.
with the subconscious using various sort of techniques to help to
To
reinforce
clear
it.
the mind.
Yeah. So the first
Love
one's on
it.
lighthouses. That's an interesting one. So lighthouses, I'm currently working on bridges.
Oh,
So it's about bridges.
nice.
And then I'm going to deviate a little bit for the third one, which is going to
Controversial.
be quite an interesting one. It's going to be around fire. Now, not fire
Fire.
as in the thing that you use to heat things up, but fire as in FIRE or financial independence, retire early,
Oh,
which is a
okay.
growing movement. Um, and all of us, a lot of people are looking for a quick fix on finances. And this actually brings us back in from that dopamine hunting quick fix side of things and takes us into the actual slow regulated process of continual growth, compounding and all that sort of stuff. So that's going to be the third one. And then the reason I'm doing that one is because I've been involved with Rebel Finance for the last 5 years, who run
Okay.
free
I
They run
think
a
you
free
sent me that
course every
stuff.
year. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's a 10-week online course they do every year. Starts 2nd of June this year, I think. All about finances and how to change your money mindset and get out of debt and save up and then be in a more financially secure position, which is great. Uh,
Wow. So you're busy, busy,
yeah,
busy.
yeah. And
Yes.
then another switch in gear for the last book that I've got planned so far, the fourth book, which is going to be around microbiome. So,
Interesting.
so
So
yeah.
you've got your work with London Speaker Bureau.
Hmm.
It's a small period, but you've got the Speaker Awards coming up. You've got your books to write. You
Hmm.
speak yourself.
Hmm.
And so what does Dom do for fun?
Oh, I don't know. Do we want the PG rated version?
Yes, please, preferably. This is going to go to all our databases as well. So preferably, yes.
Well, yeah. So yeah, things for fun. I do enjoy cycling. That
Okay.
is that is probably the basis of stuff. I've recently got into bouldering as well. So that's
Bouldering.
good fun.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Loads of people seem to be getting into that. Yep. Good, good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm based in Bristol. So I have actually the last two, three speakers who I have met up with for a chat, we've
Yeah.
actually met at the bouldering gym and we've gone for a climb and then had a chat afterwards.
Oh, I
So
love that. Well,
that's
those
good
who
fun.
sweat together work together. Someone
Indeed.
told me that a long time ago. And I think it's true. When you sweat together, there's a connection. And you just see someone beyond the showing up and the kind of like the date face, right? The good,
Yes.
you see the other side, the frustration, the hard, their abilities. You can support them, they can support you. So I get that. I think that's a really great way, a very different way to kind of hold an interview if you want to get to know a speaker. Let's go climbing. I wouldn't go climbing because I don't like climbing. I watch you climb and cheer you on. And I have a coffee, go Dom, woohoo! But I wouldn't necessarily. But if you say let's go for a run, I'd probably go for a run. So there's other things I would do in
Yeah.
that respect.
Yeah.
But
No.
cool.
So that's good fun. Yeah, I much prefer, well, other speakers will attest to you, I much prefer to go for a walk and talk than just sit in a coffee shop and stuff.
Yeah, first
Um,
time we met, that's what we did, right? We had a little walk around Bristol, and
yeah,
then we had a nice food from a food truck that was in the square,
well
and that was
remembered.
yeah. I do have good memory. My wife hates how good a memory I have. There you go. There's a little secret from my world. So I don't know about you, and it might already been alluded to, or you've answered this. Our kitchen table in our household is the hub of everything. It's where my kids draw. It's where Emily and I talk about future. We talk about finances. It's kind of like the hub of our future happens at our kitchen table, as well as cereal and milk spilt everywhere, and kids drawing on it. And I kind of see it as the hub of our vision and our creativity. So I'm always asking all my guests, what's on their kitchen table? So what's on your kitchen table?
What's on my quick kitchen table? Well, we've already mentioned the book, so I won't go there again
Yes.
because I think I probably spent long enough talking about that. Um, what's on my kitchen table? Well, short term, it's
Yeah.
probably mostly focused around my kids.
Yes.
So yeah, I've got a young kid who's started senior school, and he's yeah, being there for him to help him
Of course.
is really important. Um, but I am planning beyond that as well. So, sort of 5, 6 years time, the plan is to be able to sort of sell up everything and just travel the world for a decade, living
Become a
in
nomad.
very absolutely, yeah.
Love
Give,
it.
give that a go. Get out there, experience more in terms of cultures and diversity and ways of being, ways of living. So yeah, and also it's a good sort of hack for the early years of your pension, really, is if you can keep your living costs down for the
Yeah,
first few years, your pension's got more chance of surviving till the end.
that's true.
Um, so yeah, so that's probably looking at sort of the southern hemisphere, so South America, South Africa, India, sort of Asia, sort of southern Asian places. Those are on the kitchen table for when the little one is off to university and no longer sort of in need of us hanging around so much.
Wow, that
Um,
sounds exciting.
but yeah, my eldest wants to build a house or somewhere to live, so that'll be that'll be an interesting project.
For
Fortunately, it's
sure.
something I do have experience of because we built a house well, gosh, must be about 14 years ago now. We built a house,
Wow.
um, which was it was a needle in a haystack opportunity. It was a plot with planning permission in 11 acres of woodland, which
Wow.
doesn't turn up very often.
Definitely
Um,
not.
so yes, and that the house is still standing, and the current
That
owners do still like it. So,
that's good news. Nothing's crumbled, and it's
so
so
yeah,
yeah. There's hope for your son then.
there is, yeah, yeah. So that's good. And then my middle kid, she's a trans girl, so lots going on in her world at the moment.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, trying to be there to support her and everything.
Oh
So
yeah.
yes, and yeah, all
All sounds very
plenty of stuff on the
exciting.
table, really.
Lots of stuff on your table. So I don't know where you'll eat, but there's lots of stuff on your table. And I think that brings me nicely to kind of the question I love asking our guests before we start to wrap this up. You've given so much, but so thank you for that. What's what what's the one thing we should be talking about that we're not talking about?
I suppose not being talked about is the the actually quite simple sort of idea
Yeah,
that we can all win together. So we can lift each other up and all succeed. It's not a zero-sum game. Somebody doesn't have to lose for you to win. Now, I know
right.
we're talking about the Speaker Awards here, so there is only one winner. However,
Hmm.
through the whole experience, going through it together, especially if you come to the summit as well, there
Yeah,
is that networking, there is that camaraderie, there is that sharing, there is that ability to for everybody to lift their game, for everybody
correct.
to gain from experience, to learn something and to improve their lives, as well
Yeah.
as to pass on nuggets to those who are coming up behind them. And I think that that is something that really needs to be far more appreciated throughout the world as a whole, really, is that, you don't have to take something away from somebody to be able to gain something.
Mm,
Um, if we have the ability to move beyond personal greed, I would say,
yeah.
and to actually share and to understand that it can be better for everyone, then that takes us to a whole different paradigm of being. Um,
Is it
so yeah.
because people find it easier to take than to earn?
Oh, this is a good question.
In your opinion, obviously. Yeah.
Not necessarily. I would say it is more a problem with perception.
Okay.
It's more an issue that people get into their head a certain fixed idea that I can only do something a certain way. And because other people haven't shared with them ideas or visions as to what they could actually achieve, they feel stuck in that sort of paradigm. So
Hmm.
I'll give you an example. I used to have a narrowboat on the canal.
Yes.
So I lived on it full time for 2.5 years. And then at the end of the second lockdown, after the big sea had gone,
Yes.
um, I moved my boat up to London, and I
Okay.
spent the next 2 years with it on the Paddington arm of the Grand Union Canal.
Oh yeah.
And everything was generally great, apart from one time where somebody broke into my boat and basically turned everything over, took a whole bunch of stuff and all that sort of stuff. In fact, it wasn't one person, it was a group of three people.
Oh right.
Because I got them on CCTV. Unfortunately, there was a spotlight next to the boat, so you only had shadows. You couldn't actually tell who they were.
See, yeah.
Um, and you can deal with that in one or two ways. You can either be really upset about it and everything and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, initially I was upset. I was like, hey, this is damn, why has this happened to me, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking about it more and I was like, hold on a minute. I'm actually really fortunate. I had my boat, I had my stuff that was on it. I could afford to replace most of what was on there without too much trouble.
Yeah.
And and I have a way to create an income for myself. I have a way to provide for myself without having to take from other people. But these people who'd come on my boat and taken my stuff, they'd obviously felt that that was their only way to do things in life.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I in some ways actually it was great to be able to sort of go through
To
that thought
reframe it.
process and reframe it. Yeah. So
I
So I
wonder.
think we need more of that in the world.
Yeah, I think. Well, that's also acceptance and forgiveness, and I think some of the challenge, which and I hear you speak, is a lot of us are taught not to take that lying down. That it's not okay to be stolen from. I have to get mine back. I have to. They should be punished, right?
Well,
You
it's the
should
old an
pursue
eye
it.
for an eye.
Right, but if you go eye for an eye, everyone ends up blind and with no teeth, right?
Yeah.
So, I think you're right. I just, in your opinion, wonder how much that kind of conditioning of you got to, if you do to others or was done to you, don't take things lying down. Especially now in the polarizing world we're in, you're either on this side or that side.
Mm.
How much that plays a part. Because something I talked with Ricky yesterday when I interviewed them was an inability right now to discuss opposing opinions and to discuss, even if you vehemently disagree with each other, right and left, right, opposite sides.
Yeah.
I think the ability to talk about it has diminished. I'm not going to talk to you, Don, because you're on that side. That's that. I know you're dead to me. And how much of that plays into this issue of not being able to share and to lift each other up.
Absolutely, absolutely, 100%. And it is, and social media has not helped with that because it is such an echo chamber and the algorithms are written. I can't remember what it was I was listening to yesterday, but it was basically saying how people are so easily radicalized. So
Yes.
they might start off with something that's only just slightly off center,
Yeah.
but because of what YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, whatever it is, social platform you're using, whatever they are wanting to keep you on there. So they try and give you things that appeal to you. And they will, they know that, there's a shock and awe sort of grab thing.
Hmm.
So they will see whereabouts you sit and then they will feed you more of that content, which is gradually getting more and more extreme. And I think it's been shown that in a really quite short period of time, it can move you way off balance, way off to one side or the other. And then once you're there, it's just that echo chamber that keeps coming back to you again and again to reinforce your views. And I think
Yeah.
it was said about statistics at one time. You will always be able to find some evidence to back up your beliefs.
Yeah. What you
Um,
think, and people are forming their beliefs based on opinion versus fact, which is always worrying. I mean, fact can also be subjective, but like if it's a fact, it's a fact. But it's not only social media now, because there's been proven that even like AI, ChatGPT, Gemini
mhm.
can be programmed to sway you to a certain way of thinking and being, and so that's even when you're chatting to ChatGPT and having
Yeah.
a conversation, actually they've been programmed to shift, or influence what you're thinking and believing. And I think that's quite worrying because more and more people are spending time on ChatGPT or talking to Gemini or talking to Claude, right? They're talking to them and these
Yeah.
things are swaying them. And I remember someone saying they were doing it and they were talking to ChatGPT, and I think they asked them something like, well, is there a God?
Hmm.
And once I can't remember the answer they gave, but the answer they gave went, oh, that's an answer that's designed to sway me towards one way of thinking.
Hmm.
Now, whether that's because it felt like it knew that person well enough to give them the answer, or whether they've been programmed, right? But it's still a worrying thing,
Yeah, I mean the thing you've got to remember is where does ChatGPT, where do all of the LLMs get their knowledge from?
right?
And
The
it
internet.
is from the internet.
Yeah,
And there is so much polarizing stuff out there that it's not surprising.
yeah,
And again, at the end of the day, it's designed to keep you on the platform. It is designed to to give you a feedback that you feel is helpful to you.
right,
And so yes, it will try and put across a point of view that aligns with yours, unless you specifically tell it not to.
right,
This is
exactly.
the really useful thing is that if you go into, you can set up projects in ChatGPT. If you're using Perplexity, you can set up spaces and various other things, but you can tell it to roast you. You can tell it to disagree with your point of view. You can tell it that you want balanced viewpoints on when you're talking to it. But you as a user have to go in and do that. And if you don't, then yeah, it will gradually side with you and it will push you further and further in one direction or another.
Mm.
I think Ben Gold is a great AI speaker who
Who
talks
will
about
be
that
there
sort
at
of
the
stuff.
summit? We haven't
Mm,
announced it yet, so he's coming
yeah.
over for it. So he's going to do a session on it. So
Oh,
absolutely.
nice.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah, a bit
Yeah.
like he did with the summit. He's going to. He offered very kindly. Said, "Do you want me to come?" I said, "Yeah, do it." Thank you, Ben Gold. So we haven't announced that yet. We want to get the awards out of the way, and then we can re-announce everything.
Yeah. Fabulous.
So yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, if only we supported each other, lifted each other,
Yeah.
well, and also celebrated other people's successes.
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing. Like we watch other people, oh, why them? And then it's like, well, why not
Mm,
me? And then that becomes I'm big, they're small, or they're small, I'm big. We
yeah.
could all elevate each other, and I think that's a great message for
Yeah.
youth.
And that's where
Final.
communication comes in, actually.
Sorry, carry on.
And I was just going to say that's where communication comes in. Um,
Yes.
and as speakers, it would be great to practice this authentic communication.
Ooh.
Um, actually, yeah, let's throw it in there. There is a book which is called
Yep.
Polysecure.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, it is targeted at the polyamorous community.
Okay.
Yes, that is not the
For
general
everyone.
philosophy of a lot of people. There's monogamy, there's polyamory, and there's a whole blend of things in between. This
There's
is the
open
thing. This,
relationships. Yep.
absolutely, this is the thing we're learning about the world is it's not as binary as we thought it was. There is a whole spectrum of things to discover out there. However, in Polysecure, it goes through attachment theory, it goes through emotions, it goes through feelings, it goes through communication.
Okay.
So, as a book for anybody to help build relationships, both internally within your close relationships, within your family, within your friends, within work colleagues and things, it's a great book around communication. And so often we are told, not to be vulnerable, not to show weakness, not to express your feelings. And then you've got people who are in a sort of similar place to where I am trying to get out of and working hard on, which is where you don't feel you're actually worthy of sharing stuff. You don't think that it's your place to put how you are out into the world because, other people shouldn't have to deal with that. You're there to help others, you're there to serve others, and that sort of thing. So it is really difficult and important still to be able to have those authentic conversations. And if you practice having those as a speaker with people who are close to you, then that means that when you get up on stage, you can actually be more authentic and you can connect more with your audience, which, from my point of view, I feel will make you a better speaker.
Great. And I think there's a lot of people that think like you. And I think it's important to express ourselves because the one way to depression is lack of expression.
Mhm.
And I think, often there's sharing and then there's sharing, right? There's sharing because, look, I'm going through this and I would love some support, or I'm sharing this to show that it's okay not to be okay. And then there's what would be, let's say, pity party sharing. And I think when you come from the first two, I find no one really, will ever be like, oh, why do you share that? Or you get the odd person. Right. I think when it's come from a place of, oh, poor me, that's often when they get the backlash. But I think it's important to express yourself regardless and find if it's not online, is find the people that you can have a pity party with them. But you're having a pity party because the end goal is to lift each other, to feel better, not to dwell in it. And I think everybody should have the right to express themselves. Everybody should be listened to. And the other thing, of course, is when someone like yourself express themselves, you don't have to be Yoda. You don't have to come up with wisdom. Sometimes you just want someone to listen and go, "Oh, thanks for telling me that." Right? Often I'll have, I don't know about you, but I can be quite emotional. I can wake up most mornings quite emotional. I've got two young kids. Am I doing a good job? Good job. See, oh, Freudian slip. Hangs over me. Could I be, could I've handled that better? So I get very emotional. Like I was always feeling like, am I doing a good enough job? And sometimes I just say, look, here's how I'm feeling to Emily, my dear wife, and she'll just say, thanks for telling me. I don't need more than that. I just need it out, right? And I think often people feel like they have to say something back, and you don't. So I hope you keep expressing yourself, Dom, and you keep sharing what you need to share because that's what matters. And it doesn't have to be online for the whole world to see. It can be with a community. It can be a WhatsApp group. It can whatever. I mean, WhatsApp, I'd be careful because that's Meta and they're grabbing everything. But that's another conversation, right? Find your a platform to express yourself. Final words for people who are entering the Speak Awards this year.
Final words as a reminder, really, read the prompts, answer the prompts that are there rather
Hmm.
than necessarily what you want to say. In terms of videos, do one specifically for your entry. So
Hmm.
make sure that your video is relevant to your entry. Um, Put out version one, even if you think you're not ready for it. Just give it a go, give it a try, see what happens and learn, and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, have fun. Back yourself. Dom, we'll put how to get in touch with you as well in the notes, but do you want to just give yourself a little plug where people can find out? Where can they find the books? Go. This is your moment.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, in terms of finding me, the easiest way is via LinkedIn. So just look up Dominic Eldred Earl. That's Eldred hyphen Earl. There is, yeah, if you Google Eldred Earl, there are only three of us in the world. So
Oh, wow.
no, well, three that you'll find on Google anyway. So yeah, and if you're interested in the books, yeah, just you can head over to Amazon and again just put in my name in and it will come up. The book's available on Kindle Unlimited, so anyone who has a Kindle Unlimited subscription will have it. When the audio goes up, I'm hopefully going to be able to make it available sort of for free for people to listen on Audible as well. Otherwise, you can obviously obtain a copy of it if you haven't got a subscription.
Fabulous. Thank you again for your insights, your wisdom, your knowledge, everything. Thanks you for taking time out being here. It's time for you to back yourself, people. Go onto speakawards.com, put your entry in. And of course, if you got value from this, reach out to Dominic, say hello. He does build amazing relationships with the people, as long as you come from the right place. But get yourself in there. You've heard. Put the effort in, pay attention to the detail, but back yourself more than anything. The speakawards.com, as this has been recorded, there's 31 days to go. I don't know when you listen to this, but go to speakawards.com and put your entry in. My name is Elliot Kay. Till next time, I'll see you soon. Bye now.